Hello, everyone. Wow, I'm really humbled to be in front of so many educators. First, I'm Casey Shea. I'm the Outreach Director for Great Education Colorado. We are a statewide, nonprofit, nonpartisan, grassroots organization, and our mission is to improve education in Colorado, specifically through wise and increased investment in our public schools, colleges, and universities. We have 27,000 subscribers around the state and over 200 communities. So that's just a little background about who we are. Thank you. First, before I get started and talk to you about the Year of the Student Project, which is, I think, a really hopeful ray of light when we couple that with what's happening and some of the solutions that are ideas that are out there that are brewing about school finance, I think we really have a hopeful situation for our state if we can go out and capitalize on all the support for public education. One really good piece of news, I think this Tuesday in the election, there were 34 mill levy and bond override measures on the ballot across the state. 31 passed. Yeah, that's a huge deal, and I think it really is a signal that Coloradans are ready. They know we have a problem. They know that we've got to do something about that, and they're going to be there to support you as educators out educating all of our kids. So with that, I want to just start this video that sort of does answer that question, does money matter? And I think it's really great to have the Valley starring and showing what's possible in public education. So with that, we will pull up the video.
I've lived in Colorado for more than 40 years. I love Colorado. I think it is the most beautiful place to live. I want an education system that rivals the beauty of this state. To think that we have cut close to $1 billion in public education in less than 4 years is kind of mind-boggling.
You know, the students these days, I think, are missing a lot of opportunity. The fact that they don't have the same offerings from a curriculum standpoint, from an activity standpoint. A lot of them are going to school in substandard facilities. I think it really affects the way they engage in the learning experience.
So if we look at the data, how the United States compares in student achievement with other countries, we're not in the top 5, we're not in the top 10, we're not even in the top 15. And what are we doing about it? What are you doing about it? What am I doing about it? As a citizen of Colorado, as a citizen of the world, what are we doing about it?
Center's got a pretty challenging demographic. This past school year's poverty rate for the district was over 90%. It's the highest in the state. The additional problem for a place like Center is we don't have much property wealth. I've been in houses in Colorado. It's worth more than all the property in my school district.
There you go. My name is Miguel Sendejas. My oldest daughter's name is Salma. She's 13, going into 8th grade. My middle daughter is Natalia. She's 10, going to go into 4th grade. When Salma was in 3rd grade, her CSAP scores were below 40% of the state standard. And that's very low. That's you know, we're thinking, how can this be?
The result after 1 year was an increase in our reading performance in Haskin Elementary School from only having 28% of our kids reading at grade level based on 3rd grade CSAP measurement. We grew to 41% and we were thrilled. We continued the same process. We trained new teachers, we refined our practices. And we were able to continue doing after-school interventions and summer interventions, and at the end of year 2, our kids, for the first time ever in any subject area, any grade level, scored above the state average. We scored 76% reading proficiency with our third graders.
76%. So that's, you know, we do the math and it's 36% higher. And that's, you know, you could tell where there was funding, where there was not funding. For me, it feels like they have a better opportunity to move ahead.
Center proves so far that if you couple additional resources with the right educational strategies, you will see results.
I think they've done some incredibly positive things. They've been very thoughtful in the way they've moved into new programs, tried new ideas. My biggest concern is when the grant dollars run out, are they going to be able to continue that success and move forward on a sustainable basis?
To qualify for specific scholarships, you have to have on your resume that you successfully completed AP American Government or AP English. We can't even offer it. When the smartest kid you have in your district over a 16-year period emerges and can't even, you know, become a finalist in a Betcher Scholarship or a Daniels Scholarship competition, that tells you you've done them wrong because of the things you couldn't offer. It wasn't for not trying.
I'm a strong believer that every kid should have access and the desire to pursue an educational career beyond K through 12, going into post-secondary. Now, not all do, but the fact that they should all, I believe, have that opportunity. We see 12 to 15% tuition increases every year. The opportunity is starting to elude a lot of our students, and the fact is we need to find better ways to make sure that really everyone has equal access to continuing education.
I believe that advocacy is just so extraordinarily important, and I think what Great Education Colorado is doing, they're being very bold. They've stayed true to their mission. They've broadened their grassroots network, and they keep at it and at it and at it. And that's what it's going to take to bring about the change that we all agree needs to happen in terms of tying resources with good reforms.
As an organization, Great Ed works to engage parents, engage teachers, engage students, but really engage communities and the importance of an adequate education and fully funded education system.
In my opinion, Great Ed Colorado is, I think, the foremost organization in the state that's getting the word out to citizens in Colorado about what we've been doing to our kids for the past decade in regard to education finance and how it's starting to affect them and how it's going to affect the state and the well-being of the state if we don't do a great job.
We have a hold of a good thing, it's working, you're seeing positive results, and then for someone to tell us, hey, this isn't there anymore. Well, we still have a 2.5-year-old daughter. You know, she's going to be coming to school before we know it. What about her? What about all these other kids? How about them?
It's up to us to make sure that the future belongs to Colorado's kids.
Well, between the video and George, I think we've covered the Colorado we have a problem. We have an education funding problem issue. So I'm going to try to run through some of that. But first, I want to talk about the Year of the Student Project. The 3 things to sort of think about when you leave today after my presentation, to remember that these 3 things. In Colorado, we have this statewide education funding problem as a result of the state level cuts that we've experienced in our state. And second, our students cannot wait any longer for us to fix this problem, for Coloradans, for our state leaders to find the courage to fix this problem. And we can fix this problem when we join the voices of people who care about our students all around the state. We can do this together, especially when we educate and empower our state leaders to find the courage to do this. So first, I'm going to just sort of flip through. These are some of the stats when you sort of step back and look at where Colorado ranks. You saw most of those were $1,800 per student below the national average. So multiply the number of kids in your class by $1,800 and think about what else you could do with the resources at your fingertips to reach those kids and to have what you need to work with them. We're in the bottom quintile when you look at student-teacher ratios, technology, both in terms of how our schools are wired and in terms of hardware and software that's available to them. In support for the teaching profession, so how the teaching profession salaries rank compared to like professions in our state, we're near bottom in how we value the teaching profession. Achievement gaps, 4th grade reading and math, 8th grade reading and math. We're almost, I think we're 48th or 49th on all those measures when you look at how we're educating our students in poverty compared to those who are not. We are 49th in state and local funding for higher ed. You saw that earlier. And this last statistic, which was also on the video, 9,000 more students in Colorado from 9-10 to 10-11, 500 less teachers. And that's the statistic when you go out and talk about what's happened on a state level. People really seem to be responding to when they think about that, what that really means for what we're doing to our education system. So second, the cuts that you're feeling are really the result of state budget cuts, and I don't have to tell you how you're feeling those state cuts. You're taking on more and more grades, more subject areas, more kids. You have less money in your classrooms to address that, and you're pulling money out of your own pocket to meet the needs of our kids. And we're doing what we have to meet those needs. But what's really happening is what's happening at the state level is putting Colorado in a place, putting our educators in a place where they don't have all the tools, where you don't have all the tools you need to help them to the full extent that you could if we would invest a little bit more. So this is a graph that we show all over the state because it tells the story of how Colorado has disinvested in our public schools over time. Basically, the red line is Colorado, the black line is the national average in per pupil funding from 1970 all the way to 2008-9. During that time, 3 amendments passed in Colorado: Gallagher, Tabor, and Amendment 23. But I'm not going to go into that, but the result of that has really been a decline, even when the economy was doing well. During the 90s, when lots of people were moving to our state, residential property values were skyrocketing, and yet Colorado was disinvesting in our public education system relative to other states. So this is another graph that just shows we have indeed cut over $1 billion, but when you look at the per student funding levels, this shows fiscal year 05 to 2011-12. We don't have the most recent numbers on here yet, but the fiscal year 11-12 is about the same as what we were in 2006 in terms of actual per pupil funding cuts. The gray bar shows what we would have if we were fully interpreting Amendment 23. That was intended to increase funding for our schools, but over time we've really fallen below that level because of how the legislature has interpreted that. This is, Colorado here is at the bottom in terms of higher education per capita support. You look towards the top, we've got Wyoming is number 1. We have Nebraska in the top 10. We've got Kansas in the top 3rd. Sorry. And so I think the next point about this is that's how we got to this conversation in the state of Colorado, where we're talking about how can we hurt our kids the least instead of how can we help them the most. And what happens, and you know this, that we're pitting our kids against each other. We're pitting preschool against K-12 against higher education. We're pitting special education against English language learners, against gifted and talented. And that's not a position in our state that we want to be in. But this last point here is that it's an easy status quo. It's difficult to change, and right now our legislators are looking at a budget, and they have to balance the state budget. So it's easy to keep doing that and to keep cutting, just a little more each year, shaving it off the edge. But who cares about this problem? We do. There are thousands of people across the state, hundreds of thousands, who want to fix this problem. And so this gets to where we lead into the Year of the Student Project. Parents, grandparents, students, educators, faith leaders, business people, you know the people in your communities who care about this, who care about the students out there, and know that we're not doing right by them with our current investment level in education. And I think it's important when you go out and remember that you are not alone, that you have the support of thousands of people. And I think this election, in terms of all the funding measures that have passed, is really a point that supports that, and that you should remember. And when we think about moving forward to find more comprehensive solutions like George was alluding to, I think that we've got to find all those people out there. We've got to find them and make sure that we can join our voices together and have one voice for Colorado to change directions. So who can fix this? And George talked about the voters having a really big role in Colorado. But in addition to the voters, state leaders, our governor and our legislators, they have the power to fix this problem. Certainly they have options to go out. They haven't explored all those options. And I think what Year of the Student is all about is empowering and educating our leaders to go out, get educated. What's happening in your local school? Do a tour, find out shadow a teacher, see what it's like out there. And I think we have a great opportunity. Revenues are coming back in our state as the economy is starting to recover, though slowly. All these funding measures have passed. I think it's a great opportunity. We have the Lobato trial out there, and we've showed the facts about what's happening in terms of our investments. So they have these options, but they're not going to fix this problem unless that we demand that they fix it, and that they know that there's support out there, that all those people who care are going to support them and empower them to fix this problem. So when are they going to, or who is going to do that? All those people who care are going to do that. We're going to encourage them, empower them, enable them. So not just say, do your job, but say, hey, look, I want you to understand, and together we can fix this. And so that's what Year of the Student is all about. Demanding action by our state leaders in 2013, demanding that they go out, explore, ask their lawyers, what could we do right now to improve education, to improve investment in education in our state. Strengthen the resolve of those who care, of those state leaders who care, and make all that demand out there, all those people, that those state leaders know they're behind them to fix the problem. And then finally, to build the Army to ensure that they do in fact act, not just to say, hey, you got to make 2013 the Year of the Student, but then have all those people who then can hold them accountable. Did you do that? Did you go get educated? Did you ask your lawyers? What are your options? So the Year of the Student Project is made up, I'm going to skip past this, of over 110 organizations and school boards across the state, including of a couple here in the Valley. We have parents, teachers, students, senior groups, the Council of Churches, rural, urban, suburban. We have gifted and special education. We have businesses and the faith community, as I said. Higher education is at the table. So all of these people are demanding that our state leaders explore their options and fix this problem in 2013. So the main way that we're going out and finding all those people who are going to hold our leaders accountable is with the call to action, and I'm going to pass this out in a second. So what I'm going to ask you to do, if you support this effort to hold our state leaders accountable and demand that they fix this in 2013, I'm going to ask you to sign. We're going to send you a follow-up email, and I ask that you forward that to one person, 2 people, 3 people who also care about this, so we can really multiply our impact. And moving forward in 2013, we'll have those folks engaged to understand what's going on and to be ready when the solution is out there. And then if you are more excited and want to go out and gather more signatures in your community, I have extra copies that you can go out and do that. I'm just going to read what we ask people to sign. We, the undersigned Coloradans, respectfully demand that the General Assembly make 2013 the Year of the Student, using the legislative session to create and find funding for a P20 public education finance system that matches the reforms, accountability measures, and mandates with the resources necessary to ensure that every student is successful. So that's what you sign on to. You can also go to our website, 2013forstudents.org. You can sign online. We have easy telefriend tools and news about the project. We have videos. And you can download a call to action online. So it's pretty comprehensive and easy to get engaged online as well. So just the last point here is that we can do this together if we are joining our voices. And I think it's really exciting what happened on Tuesday, because I think that it's sort of the tipping point when we think about finding the will to do this. So with that, I want to let you get on with your day, but I thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm going to pass around the call to action here. One other last thing I'm going to pass around wallet cards, and it's sort of a little cheat sheet that talks about some statistics of where we are and what the Year of the Student Project is. So just take 1 or 2 and pass them on, and we hope that this is a way to help you have your elevator speech when you go out and talk in your communities. So thank you so much.